Okay, so let's get started with this episode of Love Fraud Live. Today's presentation is on Love Fraud's 3 rules of dating. You may be apprehensive about dating, especially if you've been burned by a relationship with a sociopath, narcissist, psychopath, or some other exploiter. But with awareness and self-healing, you can protect yourself from predators and find real love. Most of us, of course, want to have a significant relationship in our lives. Even when we have plenty of friends, a terrific family, and a fulfilling job, without a partner, we often feel lonely. Sociopaths specialize in targeting loneliness. So anyone who is looking for a romantic partner is, by definition, vulnerable to being targeted by a sociopath. So, how do you protect yourself from predators and find real love? Well, by following Love Fraud's 3 rules of dating. And here they are. Rule number 1. If they lie to you about who they are or their life story, dump them. The whole point of an intimate relationship is to be authentic and honest with someone, to reveal your true self, and to be loved for who you are. Partners who lie about any aspect of their identity, including their histories, are flunking this basic test of relationship. Now, lying about oneself isn't always malicious. Sometimes it's the result of self-doubt or a feeling of inferiority. But if that's the case, you don't have a partner, you have a project. You'll be taking on the burden of supporting the other person rather than the two of you supporting each other. Then, of course, there are the sociopaths who lie about themselves so that they can reel you in and exploit you. When you catch them in lies, they may apologize and plead and say, "I only said that because I was afraid you wouldn't accept me." Well, they're right. You should not accept them. If you discover that your partner has lied to you about his or her identity or history, including being married and not telling you, end the involvement immediately. The person is either poor relationship material or an exploiter. So here's rule number 2. The most important decision of your life is whom you have children with. When you have a child with someone, you are tied to that person forever. Now, hopefully it's a good experience. You become a happy family, and your children are blessings for both of you. But unfortunately, many romantic involvements end. If you have children together and split up, you'll probably face one of the following scenarios. You could manage to co-parent amicably, which would be terrific. You could tolerate each other, but the kids are caught in the middle. Or you hate each other, and the kids have to deal with unending hostility. Or if the partner is disordered, he or she uses the kids to control you. This happens a lot. Or also, if the partner is disordered, he or she abuses both you and the children. Or finally, the other parent abandons you and the kids, and you're left to raise them alone. Even if the other parent disappears, when there are children, you are forever tied to him and her genetically. And this could be a problem if the other parent is a sociopath. Personality disorders are about 50% genetic. Therefore, your children may inherit a predisposition to become disordered. It's possible for proactive parenting to prevent a disorder from developing, but this is really hard work. Many parents who have had children with a sociopath have had to accept the fact that their children are also sociopaths, and this is unbearably painful. So think carefully about whom you have children with, which means you need to think carefully about whom you have sex with. Even if you don't intend to have children, sometimes it happens. Now, maybe you're past the kid stage. You still need to pay attention to a corollary of this rule, and here it is. Who you have sex with is always a critical decision in your life. Of course, you need to be concerned about diseases, but besides that, you need to understand that when you have sex with someone, you get flooded with oxytocin. Oxytocin is a hormone and neurotransmitter that is essential to human bonding. It makes you feel calm, content, and trusting. It especially makes you trust the person who triggered the oxytocin in you, which is, of course, your sex partner. You will feel bonded to this person and more willing to cooperate and give them what they want. If your partner is a sociopath, it will make you more vulnerable to exploitation. Believe me, sociopaths know this. Now, I don't know if they're aware of oxytocin, but they certainly know that if they have sex with someone, that person is easier to manipulate. So that's the big reason why they rush to have sex with you. So finally, here's rule number 3. Be the love that you want to find. Here's a vital concept about looking for a life partner. The person who comes into your life is a reflection of what's going on inside of you. If your internal state is characterized by fear, doubt, grief, betrayal, disappointment, or any other negative emotion, you're likely to attract someone who is either similarly unhealthy or an exploiter. Sometimes your negative feelings can be subtle, hidden under an outgoing and successful public persona. So you might need to be really honest with yourself in order to spot these negative feelings. If you do, the best investment that you can make towards finding the love that you really want is self-healing. Now, this could be a lot of work, depending on your history. For run-of-the-mill doubt and anxiety, self-help programs may be enough. But if you've experienced severe trauma or betrayal, such as child abuse or a previous relationship with a sociopath, you may need professional therapy. Healing is always the answer. You don't have to be perfect to find love. In fact, one of the great ways that we grow is through our relationships. So as you become healthy and whole, you will draw people to you who are also becoming healthy and whole. And among them may be a partner to share your journey. Okay, so that is our presentation for tonight. Now I will answer some of your questions. So let's see what we have. Okay, here's a question. Do sociopaths feel the effects of oxytocin? And the answer to that is no. The way oxytocin works is that there is a hormone that is created in your body, a hormone or neurotransmitter, a chemical substance, and most of us have oxytocin receptors. These are these little things on the cells, I guess you could say, little keyholes maybe, where the oxytocin connects. And these are all over the body, actually. But there is research that seems to indicate that sociopaths and psychopaths do not have oxytocin receptors. For some reason, they're atrophied or they never developed or something along those lines. So consequently, they have nothing to receive the oxytocin. And so it doesn't happen with them. I mean, that's one of the key things about a sociopath in any type of romantic relationship, is that they don't really bond. There is no real bonding between the sociopath and their partner. Now, they can attach, which means, because there's a lot of psychological professionals who claim that sociopaths don't attach, and that's not necessarily true. Sociopaths can definitely like to be around somebody. They may want to have people in their relationships, and obviously that's how sociopaths take advantage of people, is by having them in their relationships. So yeah, I mean, they're definitely looking for people, but they don't really bond. They do not have the capacity to fall in love, to actually love, to care about another person, to care about their well-being, and which is one of the three components of love. I've explained on these presentations before that scientists have identified three components of love, and they are attachment, which is the desire to be with someone; sex, which we just talked about, and self-explanatory; and caregiving. Sociopaths do not do caregiving. Therefore, they don't love and they don't bond. So, no, sociopaths do not feel the effects of oxytocin. Okay, so we have another question here. What is the best way to work on healing? I believe the best way to work on healing is to learn how to allow yourself to feel any pain that you may have without judgment. And it's a mindfulness approach. So what that means is you allow any negative emotions that may be buried inside of you to rise to the surface. And you don't try and squash them down. You don't necessarily try to analyze them. You just allow them to be. And you learn how to tolerate the bad feeling, the grief, the betrayal, the anger, the resentment, the whatever that bad feeling may be. And it's definitely unpleasant, but what happens is that as you allow yourself to feel the emotions, they dissipate, they go away, which is like fabulous. I mean, that's the whole point. The whole point is to get them out of your system. So, it takes time, because most of us have a lot of negative emotions. We have layers and layers of negative emotions. So what happens is, some may rise to the surface. You allow yourself to feel them, you allow yourself to experience them, and eventually they fade away, and then more come to the surface. So the recovery is a process. It takes time. It's not necessarily pretty. You don't necessarily want to do this with other people around unless it's a therapist that you can work with. It's best done privately. But you may need to allow these feelings to come up. You may need to allow yourself to cry, to express anger, whatever the emotion is. Somehow it needs to be allowed to come to the surface and expressed. So if you can do that, and you can, I mean, we can all do this. But as I said, it can be a bumpy ride, but it's absolutely worth it, because the more that you can get any negative emotions that you may have out of your system, the more you'll be able to move forward and change the way your energy, your outlook on life. You'll switch from more negative to more positive. And the more you can do that, the more you attract good things into your life, including the type of relationship that you really want. So that seems to be all the questions that we have for today. Thank you very much. And we'll see you next week for the next episode of Love Fraud Live. Good night.